Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you very much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look here at Apecoin, see kind of what's going on so we can understand, best practice, big picture, and anticipate how much higher it's going to go because it's still ascending on this trend line. It's really looking good. That being said, I'm not a financial advisor. I hope you can learn something here today, and my goal is to help you become a better trader. So you want to become one? CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below. This is my full-time job. I can tell you it's very manageable. You just need to kind of be smart, patient, and obviously have a good level head on your shoulders. Regardless of that fact, I can help with that. Of course, CryptoCache.tech is a site. Check that out in your own time. So take a look here at Apecoin. Here's kind of the big picture. Obviously, the elephant in the room here is that price is continuing to ascend on this trend line. So I drew this trend line out a few days ago, and it was continuing right about this point. I think the price was testing about 1550 at the time. Came back down to essentially test and reject, but broke through the last 3 days. So awesome stuff there in that sense. That the bottom line here is though is that we're making higher lows and it's staying consistent. That's the important thing. We're also creating a lot of volume at a higher price point too, which is something that we need to acknowledge, building a strong foundation at a higher price point. So right here where the price is kind of plateaued for the 3 out of the 4 last days in the last week essentially, we can see that the actual price action got stopped out right at about 1667. But now the price is broke above and it's essentially considering that a support level. So it'd be safe to presume that this level here is somewhat of a support, and we could experience that here soon. In fact, we want to move out our Fibonacci retracement levels, and look at that. As soon as I move it, it aligns itself right there with that support level. Okay. Same with the previous resistance too. So it's right there on point. So for lack of better terms, 1675 is the current support, and lower below that, if we lose that support, 1542. Another thing to recognize too is that Apecoin is getting a lot of volume. I think it's ranked 29th as far as market capitalization is concerned. Really big coin, so in that sense, so just you got to understand that that much, that high of a number is very, very important for how early on this coin is. So there's a tremendous amount of market adoption, which basically just tells us that the likelihood of it continuing higher because of its social sentiment is greater. And just imagine what this would do if Bitcoin was not acting a fool right now, right? If Bitcoin was just saying the 50, 60,000 range, I'm sure Apecoin would be even higher. So we got to consider there's a lot of cool things factoring in here, but most of them are telling us that the likelihood of it continuing higher is greater. Okay, now how much higher, of course, is hard to anticipate. We can look at the best case scenario, but generally speaking, let's look at the data for now. We are trending closer to 70 on the RSI. We can see previously it hit 70 and got rejected, came back down. Okay. We're getting close to that now, so there is a possibility we could see a correction down to 1542. That'd likely be the bottom if we were to see a correction that large. That could happen, just keep that in mind. Now, as soon as you hit a 70 on the RSI, it doesn't mean the price is going to turn right around. It could just kind of hang out there. It could even break that too. I've seen a break above 70 on the RSI on the 1 day, and it happens more often than you'd expect on crypto, so I wouldn't put it past it. But just letting you know that, in its history, when it hit 70 on the RSI right here, for example, it came down, and we are close to 70 right now, potentially. We could see another correction. All right, so just something to be mindful of. But keep this in mind too, when it first hit 70 on the RSI, we had a significant ramp up here, whereas we've got some nice consolidation sideways, making higher lows and higher highs. Or sorry, yeah, actually, those are kind of higher highs, but to not stretch it out, higher lows are still being printed. And that's really important here to see those higher lows on the 4-hour time frame. All right, so again, good stuff there in that sense. The moving averages are working their way up. That's fantastic. Let's take a look at the RSI on the 4-hour, and we're right at a very, very comfortable place. See? And keep this in mind. This is what I always try to pay attention to, is on the 4-hour RSI. Tells us a lot more than the 1 day, because of course there's more data. But if we're over 70 on the RSI on the 4-hour, the likelihood of it coming back down and pulling back is higher. We saw the same thing happen here. It hit 70 on the RSI, got rejected. So hypothetically right now, if we can just stay between 50 and 70 for some time, we'll continue to see higher lows being printed and likely higher highs as a result, and the price should continue higher. Again, those are very, very positive signs here. The MACD isn't really telling us too much. Honestly, it's telling us the bearish momentum is waning, and we might potentially see a shift to the upside here. That is usually something you want to try to pay attention to, though, because when you do have a MACD convergence in the 4-hour, oftentimes it's a signal that the price is going to continue to progress higher. Now, normally I would urge caution because of the fact that most coins are specifically tied to Bitcoin right now. Apecoin doesn't seem to care about Bitcoin for the moment. So while it's doing that, it's important to acknowledge the fact that it's probably going to continue to progress upwards, and that 4-hour MACD convergence should have given us a breakthrough on the cloud, which actually technically wasn't even a breakthrough because it's doing so well. It came down to test the cloud, and even though it broke through the upper lead, it didn't break through the lower lead there, and that worked as a support level, so essentially holding the price action in place. So to me, usually when you see a MACD convergence and a price above the cloud, that's usually a buy signal in most cases, especially with this ascending trend line. So I hate to suggest buying at the top, so to speak, but this could very well be, and it's not fully, but you could see somewhat of a cup and handle pattern if you stretch it out, right? The bottom line is this: it's attempting to retest this level a few times. So if we get a retest of 1846, we could likely see a break through that, and that could establish itself as a new support. But once again, if we take a look at the volume profile, this is pretty telling. We got the most amount of volume at 1640, or just say the range of 16 to 17. That's a very, very important thing to acknowledge in the simple fact that this price has spent the most time at this range. So its average true range right now is getting higher. That essentially tells us we have a lot more support in place. So heaven forbid we were to lose once again 1674, we should see 1545 as the next likely candidate. So again, all good stuff here. Honestly, there's nothing adverse. The only thing I want to take a look at that I didn't yet is just see if we're reaching any kind of exhaustive state. We hit a 9 here recently, got a reset up to a 3. We're good there. We hit a 9 previously as well, and it continued higher. So just know that this thing, this thing can hit 9s and continue. So we may even see a push strong to the upside here soon based on that. Let's look at the 4-hour though first. We came down to a 9 on this correction after we hit 70 on the RSI on the daily. And then it comes down to a 9, ramps right back up to a 9, and then corrects itself. So we're seeing this consolidation phase right now, which is very healthy. That's very nice. We want to continue to maintain that. So as long as we can continue to make higher lows, we're going to just work ourselves into this wedge pattern. And it's going to just continue until it breaks upwards. The likelihood of a breakdown is a lot lower based on its overall momentum and its trend and where it's coming from. Okay. Again, if it was coming from the top, and just say, for example, we see a price coming down and then it's doing this, we could see a break to the downside. That's basically what Bitcoin's doing right now. But the inverse, of course, we see the price kind of working itself up, creating this little plateau where it's going to just kind of continue higher. So I really think we're looking pretty darn good here for Apecoin, and the likely continuation is very high. Looking at potential big picture, just to kind of throw this out there as well, once again, more abstract thinking, hypothetically, it's taken Apecoin roughly a week, maybe just say eight days of trading to increase 70%. If we were to see that same amount of increase, just say hypothetically moving forward, we break through this resistance of 1845, establish that as a new support level, we could very well see another 40% increase, upwards of 23 to 26. I do think that's a very realistic probability based on the overall market adoption and capitalization that Apecoin is seeing, based on the simple fact that, keep this in mind, Apecoin is traded on every single large exchange. It's unlike any other coin in the past that usually starts on smaller exchanges, works its way up. This went big, fast. And there's a reason for that, and we're seeing a lot of volume and a very strong social sentiment. So those are all things factoring in here. So, to me, I guess if you were to say thumbs up, I got 2 thumbs up here as a rating for the price likely to go up versus down. Just know if there were to be a correction, because we've seen it before when you get a rejection off 70 on the RSI on the 4-hour, the price could come down to 1542 or quite possibly 1675 initially. But if we lose 1675, 1542 would be the next key level support, which is once again a previous high established and essentially working as a new support level. Okay, so again, a lot of little things we can factor in, but this has some pretty good stuff here. I really like what I'm seeing here. So yeah, Apecoin has my my vote of approval here. I would say invest cautiously, of course, continue dollar cost average. Don't put all of your eggs into one basket. Never do that. Diversify effectively, but this could very well be a good coin to help you diversify your portfolio. And I would just say that the likelihood of it going up is, again, much higher based on this trend line, higher lows, not overextended. There's a lot of reasons for it. So all good stuff. I hope you learned something here today. Thanks again for joining me. If you want to become a better trader, CryptoCache.tech is the website, link in the description below. I do send out signals for every single trade that I take so you can learn how to structure your trades, as well as the fact that I have a trading academy all built in so you can learn how to become a better trader. I think that's the most important thing here, is to be self-sufficient, do this on your own, FIRE, right? The whole financial independence, retire early, is very realistic in the world of crypto if you're careful and you play your cards right, which I always do. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll look forward to seeing you next one. Thanks again for your time.